Hello everyone, my name is Serafi. I am the Speedroid Guru, and today we are going to be doing a podcast where we talk about the state of Master Duel, the meta, and how we can potentially fix it. Joining me are two Master Duel veterans. I have Pickles, the Gimmick Puppet Guru.
Hello.
Pickles has hit Master with Gimmick Puppets, I think, how many times?
Um, well, I think every season since it released, so
Every season since it
not
released,
counting,
you've hit Master. Okay.
not counting this, not counting March, so three.
Three? Okay. Oh, since Gimmick Puppets released, you mean?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. And then it also is Goldmine, the Galaxy Guru, who covers photons, galaxy, tachyon, and cipher.
Hello, everybody.
Goldmine, of course, is a long-time contributor to the channel. Glad to have him back. And Goldmine has participated in multiple Master Duel tournaments and has claimed some good wins, including in our first 5v5 event against the Multiversal Studios, where Goldmine clapped 3 people back-to-back, so definitely a star here. So, gentlemen, if you look at my screen, you will be able to see that we have a document open, and then I also have Master Duel Meta open that we can review if we need to. So let's get started. First up, I will open the floor to Goldmine. Describe what you think are the main problems with Master Duel that you would like to address today.
Okay. It's ultimately a problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole, but I think that because of how bad power creep was gone, we're basically reached a point where interaction is basically stopping the opponent from ever playing the game.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. Pickles, do you have anything to add there? Any specific problems that you feel like Master Duel has?
Well, there's obviously the cockroach in the room. I'm sure I don't need to mention the name of the card. Having that legal alongside Fuwalos and Perulia is not healthy.
Fair enough.
Some,
Yep.
And well, this is something the TCG has actually gotten better at, and it's removing generic negation from the format. So you take, like, for example, Baron Defleur, Apollosa, like those are the main two. Like those are gone in the TCG, and I think that's something that needs to happen.
Well. Let's not jump ahead to the solutions yet. We're talking about the problems first. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Both of those, I think everyone would agree that everyone watching this video will probably state that they have rage quit Master Duel at one point or another because they got max seed. It genuinely is a situation where you can try to play the game and your opponent will literally have 20 cards in their hand, and that's not a joke. That happens. People end up with 20 cards in their hand, and you're just like, well, I have 4 negates, but my opponent has 20 cards, so it's definitely an issue. Then, as far as generic extra deck negates, that is definitely something that annoys a lot of people. Seeing the same cards beating you every game. Fiendsmith, in particular, has their own negates, so the fact that they go into Appaloosa as well is pretty frustrating for a lot of people. Like, Desiree is a perfectly fine card, so it doesn't need to have additional power. Yeah. So okay, cool. Let's get started then. So all right. So Distant Coder and then me posted some massive ban lists. Goldmine has watched both videos in their entirety. Pickles, did you have a chance to look at anything?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. Generic rundown. Coder said that he wanted to ban like 50 cards. Basically, all the floodgates, Max C, Droll, Called by the Grave, Crossout Designator, Dimension Shifter, all the barrier statues, Kit Kalos, Trident Dragion, and then after that it was just like cards that were generically annoying, like Grass Looks Greener and Fairy Tale Snow. Yeah, you get the idea. Like cards that you see in every game.
Mhm.
And then for me, I took a more balanced approach. I do think that floodgates, in particular, floodgate hand traps, are a problem, and floodgate hand traps are the reason why Called by the Grave needs to be at 2. Some of the biggest differences between my list and Coder's list, I said we should ban Cyframe Gear Gamma because that card is it's not a bad hand trap. It's a hand trap that negates and also destroys the card, which is too much power. As well as I said that we should put Nibiru to 1 since we were getting rid of all the ways to stop Nibiru. All right. Okay, so Gold. What would if you could go into Konami right now and flip a switch on Master Duel? What would you want to implement more than anything?
I think one of the things that I want to implement is like one of the things I want to implement is start moving past a little bit away from negates. Like start moving away to more like destructions, bouncing back to the hand, return to the examples of that. No, those are examples of interaction.
Okay, so quick effect removal cards instead of negations. So cards like SP Little Knights.
Yeah, those are cards, in my opinion, that are fine because they produce a more fair game state rather than just, hey, you can't do this now because I negate your card, for example.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah, there are a lot of quick effect removal effects in the game. Goatee of the Deep Beyond is a big one. You have White Aura Whale as well. Let's see. Black Rose Dragon, if it gets Synchro Summon, can blow the whole field up. The first Dark Lord. If you dig through the archetypes, there are a lot of cards that have the ability to special summon themselves during the opponent's turn, or have an ability that activates during the opponent's turn that can remove or destroy cards. And the biggest example of success with this is Kashtira. So, Kashtira Fenrir, Kashtira Unicorn, and Kashtira Ogre can banish cards from the opponent's field, extra deck, and main deck. They don't negate cards; they just banish cards, and this allows them to easily control and limit options from the start. Especially Kashtira Unicorn in particular is a card that can really mess up decks. Because if you only play one copy of a combo piece that you really need, like you'll probably play more than one copy of your ace monster, but if you specifically need like Splash Mage to get into your ace monster, and your opponent banishes your Splash Mage, or if you're playing Fiendsmith and your opponent banishes Fiendsmith Requiem, well, then starting your combo can be a lot more challenging.
Hmm.
So that is an example of interaction that's not fully negation, although it can feel a little bit floodgatey because once it's happened, you can't really stop it. Pickles, go ahead and cut in here. What are your thoughts?
Well, I guess specifically what you said about Kashtira, like, yeah, those are not negation, but there is there's an argument for specifically Unicorn being extremely unfair, like you said. How it rips from the extra deck is just something that shouldn't really exist. Like, there's I guess there's another similar card in Dogmatica Albazoa, which can force the opponent to rip up to half their extra deck,
Yes.
which is like if Dogmatica was actually good, that would be insane.
Mm-hmm.
I just, yeah, it's like, I guess the way to put it is these cards that just, I get what you said when it kind of feels a little floodgatey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially like even they also punish you for interacting with them specifically. Like if your opponent starts with Unicorn and you have any hand traps, you get punished with an extra deck rip for using them.
Well, but that's the point, right?
And
The point is that
yeah,
we want interaction that's not negates. So it's not like
yeah,
the hand
but
trap is being stopped. It's just that if you use the hand trap, the opponent is going to get a shot in at you as well.
yeah, they're gonna get two shots. That's the thing. They're gonna get a shot on their turn, and then they're gonna get a shot on your turn.
Mm-hmm.
That's two extra deck grips. So that's potentially maybe like you used the Fiendsmith for example. Maybe you're playing two Requiem,
Mm-hmm.
and that lets them rip both of them, which I personally don't think should be a thing.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So
Mm.
what would be an example of non-negate interaction that you think would be healthier then?
Well, I have to think of a deck specifically, like a good example. Hmm.
Because the
Take your
audience is good.
time.
I'll go ahead and play devil's advocate. The audience is going to point out that you specifically enjoy quite a bit of non-interaction in your deck.
Yeah,
I'll defend
that's
it this time. I'll defend it this time. Even he doesn't really like the FTK. He's pretty anti FTK himself.
FTK,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I understand
that's
that the FTK part, but
it's
whether
it's
there's an
not the
FTK or
FTK
not,
part
the
that they're
field
talking
spell
about. They're
makes
talking
him,
about
yeah.
specifically the
Uh,
baby and the bisque.
that's fair.
And
The mansion makes
yeah,
his monsters completely unaffected by monster effects.
that's well, I don't think mansion is the concerning part of the non-interaction.
Mm, okay.
Like it's only cards on it's only monsters on the field.
Hmm.
And McPuppet has mostly cards revolving around the graveyard and sometimes the hand. So Mansion honestly, if anything, it helps going second. Going first, it's all about Bisque Doll and Terror Baby.
Hmm.
But I think we are getting a little bit off track.
Well, so okay, yeah, but that was the point. So you think that
Mhm.
Cashier Unicorn is not an example of interaction that you would promote.
Yeah.
So then, if we don't want so many negates, so then what would we be leaning towards then?
Well, I mean, if we can look into Kashtira itself, and I'd say Fenrir is probably fairly well designed. Is it a little bit like high power? Yeah, but I think like it's got the right idea. I would say.
You're
Hmm.
basically saying that it has the idea. It just needs a little bit more
It maybe needed a
balancing.
little bit more balancing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if it was more similar to the level of like Pankratops, like Pankratops is a well designed card.
I can agree with that.
Well, Pankratops is a well-designed card, but no one plays it.
Yeah, because Fenrir is better. That's the thing. If Fenrir didn't exist, people would probably play Pankratops more.
Hmm.
I
And
think those are kind of
the one
like
thing I
here's
actually,
the Oh, go
the
ahead,
one
go
thing
ahead.
I, sorry, just the thing I like about Pankratops more than Fenrir is Pankratops is great at outing floodgates
Hmm. Well, so
because it'll tribute itself to pop a card,
mhm.
so it can beat skill drain, it can beat goes in a rivalry. So it's great at that specifically.
Yeah, and that's fine. The problem with Pankratops is
Mm.
that you can't use it if you go first. And so
Yeah,
it's better designed for a best of 3 format where you can put it in
yeah.
side deck. But since we don't have a side deck, we need cards that are
Mm-hmm.
good going first and going second as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's absolutely right. But Fenrir is limited in Master Duel, right?
Fenrir is limited to 1, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why if you look at Master Duel and then you look anywhere else, the sheer difference in the amount of people playing evenly matched is absurd. No one plays evenly
Yeah.
matched in Master Duel because it's a
Yeah.
dead card if you go first. But
Mm-hmm.
if you look at like tournament decks, the number of people who play evenly matched in their side deck at 3 is crazy because evenly matched is a really really fair card. It's just only if you go second. And so
Yeah.
I played 3 copies of evenly matched in Runic because it's if I open it, it's a good card to discard for Hugin the Runic Wings. So
Yeah.
I don't really care if I open it if I go first. And the amount of games it's won me going second is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And speaking of that, like having that best of one, and that having that lack of a side deck
mhm,
is has been both a positive and a negative for the format.
mhm,
Because as for the negative side, you think like you can't side deck these like solutions to specific issues. Like if you play a match, let's maybe against I don't know, maybe you go against stun, you like a pure stun deck.
mhm,
You can't side like back row hate, as, for an example.
mhm.
I think that's also part of what
And
makes a deck so much stronger in Master Duel too.
yeah,
Like compared to regular
actually,
paper format.
like last I checked on like Master Duel meta, stun's actually really high up there for
Stun is
like topping
extremely good
lists.
in a best of 1. Yes, there's like
Yeah.
12 people playing stun. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean you're right. Yeah, stun benefits from the fact that like there are a lot of really powerful stun effects in Yu-Gi-Oh, and the reason why stun is not a deck that anyone talks about in the regular game is because once you know that you're playing against a stun deck, you smack them, so they win one
Yeah.
game and then they get destroyed afterwards. But in a format where there's
Hmm.
only one game, then that's a big problem. But the problem with
Yeah.
that is they're not going to change that. Like we shouldn't even discuss that
Hmm.
um, because Master Duel is unfortunately a mobile game, which means that part of the selling point of it has to be that it is something you can do on the go or something that you can do, you know, with relatively little input.
Yeah.
So the
Hmm.
longer that Master Duel takes to play, the more that hurts Konami. So they're not gonna set it up to where we're gonna play best of 3s on ladder. That's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
um,
I'm just I'm just like comparing it to best of three to kind of explain some of the differences.
mhm. uh,
Uh, But there are also positives to not having a side deck, which is the topic of obviously floodgates.
mhm. Yes,
You
and
can't put in all these insane floodgates in your side when you know you're going first. So
mhm, that's
it's
true.
just they're not as the floodgates are not as popular in Master Duel.
Hmm.
Are they still an issue? Yes, but they are not as popular.
That is true. But I mean, well, it depends on what you call a floodgate because Sengen Summoning is one of the
Yeah,
most played cards in the game.
yeah. But the difference is that is an archetypal card for a top tier deck.
Well, I mean, I would argue that this floodgate is the reason why they're top tier.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can't I can't disagree with that. Second summoning is busted.
Let's see. Okay, so
I,
go ahead.
I'm gonna actually kind of disagree with that take, and more so say it's a product of what Yu-Gi-Oh is currently,
Mhm.
because most of these decks needs to go first. So this deck, which wants to go second, needs this card to really get the most value out of it. I'm not denying that it's a strong deck. It is absolutely a very powerful deck. There's a reason why people hate it so much.
Mhm.
But I will say it is ultimately a product of where we are now.
Sure, but whether the deck is whether the deck it needs these cards to function or not, it is a floodgate that makes it so powerful. Like if Tenpai did not have the ability to be unaffected during the main phase, and then another card that made it so your opponent couldn't activate any card effects during the battle phase, then they would be a lot more. They would not win nearly as many games on turn two.
That is true.
Yeah. Um,
Yep.
Okay, so let's look at some other decks that are in the meta and see if we can find some cards, some examples of cards that don't have negates, but that are like more interaction that we would enjoy. How about Voiceless Voice? Let's take a look at Voiceless Voice. So Voiceless Voice
Oh
does have
God,
an
what is
Omni
that
negate.
list?
They have Skull Guardian Protector of the Voiceless Voice, which is when your opponent
Yeah.
activates a card or effect while you control low, you can negate the activation if you do destroy the card. But they also have some other stuff, and let's see. Um,
Well, so virus is also a negate. If I'm not
yes, but it's a
mistaken. Well,
negate of a summon.
yeah, so it's kind of a solemn.
Yeah, negating a summon. To be honest, negating a summon is more like a pop effect, in my opinion. Yeah, there's some cards that like have an effect when they're summoned, but not every card has an effect when it's summoned. And so, if the card didn't have an effect when it was summoned, it's basically the same thing as like destroying the card.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, what does Saphira do?
It's a searcher. It doesn't.
You can banish
Their
this card to
disrupt.
ritual summon. That's really funny.
Oh yeah, Saphira is like a it's really strong card, but voiceless disruptions are the rituals and the trap, which this list is not playing.
Yeah. I think the doesn't one of the continuous spells do something? Let me see.
Not on the there's the barrier is a really strong protection effect, but neither of them like disrupt.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Where's the trap? There it is. Radiance of the Voiceless Voice. During the main phase, you can activate one of these effects. Shuffle a ritual to special summon a Voiceless Voice from your deck. Target cards your opponent controls up to the number of light ritual monsters you control, Warrior and Dragon. Destroy both this card and as many of the targeted cards as possible. That is really fair. So that's really cool. Like, first of all, this is highly telegraphed because it's a continuous trap. It's already going to be up on the field, and it targets, so you can respond to the targeting. It's based on the number of monsters on the field, so you can just remove the monsters before you set up targets. And it also destroys itself, which means that it's only going to resolve once unless you recycle it.
Okay, but the removing monsters thing, like as I said with barrier, that it makes it really impossible to remove Skull Guardian. And not to mention it does have the Omni Negate attached to it.
I mean, you can just. It does have an Omni Negate, which you would have to bait, but you could. There's nothing about this that says that you can't like Lightning Storm.
Yeah.
It prevents monsters from being targeted. That's all it does.
I think does low have a protection effect, if I'm not
Lou
mistaken?
doesn't have a protection effect, but I'm pretty sure the ritual spell allows you to re-summon the monster.
Oh yeah, the ritual spell. If like our light ritual you control leaves the field, you can ritual summon again or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it just revives the ritual monster, and then you're back to your Omni Negate again.
If a face-up light ritual monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Special summon one Saravis, Saphira, or Skull Guardian from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. I see. Okay. That is also really cool interaction. It basically replaces a monster if it's destroyed. Um, the The Omni negate is a hard once, so that's fair. It looks like Saravis's special summon negate is not a hard once, though. That's a little bit toxic.
Well, Silveris is actually a pretty old card, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, and here's another piece of interaction. Saravis, Dragon Sage of the Voiceless Voice. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you can return this card to the hand to special summon a light warrior ritual monster from your hand or deck, but shuffle it into the deck during the end phase. This card also does not like destroy or negate, but it lets you play a ritual from your
that
deck.
usually tags into Silveris.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. All right, yeah. I mean, these. I feel like this is some interaction that seems a bit more reasonable.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, they also have Dynamondo. During the opponent's turn, you tribute this card to target a ritual monster in your graveyard, either add to your hand or special summon it. Yeah, so it looks like this deck
This is how they trigger low on the opponent's turn.
It looks like it's just all about like reviving your monsters over and over again, which that seems like kind of like zombie-ish.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's a kind of a control style where you just want to sit on Skull Guardian.
Yeah. Okay.
And just pray your opponent can't out it. But it has the massive benefit of not needing like barely any summons, so it beats Nibiru and Maxi like extremely easily.
Gotcha. All right, let's take a look at Chimera. So Chimera has Chimera has a lot of negates. They negate targeting and they negate a monster effect. But then
this is so funny.
What?
So that they play that hero, that Sinister Necrom to summon a Dusted Gold.
Yep.
And then a Dusted Gold is full Fiendsmith combo.
Yeah, Dusted Gold is a light fiend, so yeah, it goes into full Fiendsmith. Yeah. Let's see. But the fusions are during your opponent's turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target one of your banished beast, illusion, or fiend monsters, and special summon it. Chimera is a card that a lot of people like either love or hates because its effect is if this card is fusion summon, you can activate this effect and send one random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard during the end phase. I personally think this is very important because it's a chain block for your other two monsters that when they get sent to the graveyard for fusion summons, they both trigger an effect. So this card chain blocks for that. But the hand rip is something that's like annoying to a lot of people.
With the hand rip.
You don't like it?
No, that should not. The amount of times I've had like the exact breaker I need to beat the board ripped out of my hand is absurd. But there are there are like a couple other aspects of Chimera that can be considered unfair. There is, of course, what's their name? It's whatever the card that makes you have to set cards before activating them.
Oh, that's not a Chimera card. That's an Azamina card.
This one was Diabell's the original.
Yeah, Diabell's the original Sin Keeper. Your opponent must set spells or traps before activating them. Yeah. This card is basically just anti-spell fragrance. So yeah, this card is disgusting. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that.
Yeah, and there is also the deck's ability to summon barrier statues like extremely easily.
Yes, yeah. So if you can make Beatrice mill the barrier statue, and then Baphomet.
No, actually, the Chimera fusions can just send it from deck.
Which one? Oh yeah.
The barrier statue of the abyss is a fiend.
Yeah, Baphomet the Mythical King can mill a fiend. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so then during your opponent's turn, you can banish this card to target either Beast Fiend or Illusion in your graveyard and special summon. Yeah, I am aware of this. I've done this in Chimera. When I was playing Chimera, I had this combo. Really the problem. So it's surprising that it hasn't gotten banned yet, but really the problem is that like dark locking people doesn't really hurt them all that much these days.
I mean, it hurt Fiendsmith.
It would hurt Fiendsmith, but I mean, you can see that this person isn't even doing it. Probably because they're playing Fiend's
Yeah,
Gate as well.
I doubt too many people are doing it because, like we've said, it's best of one. So
Mhm.
having the barrier statue going second is not going to be a good thing.
Yeah. Another deck that I've been playing a lot recently that has some cool interactions that I like is ninjas. So
Mm. Yeah,
Ninja
I actually agree with that.
Ninja has Joe, which is a floodgate trap hole when it's summoned.
Hmm.
Which of course it doesn't work on links and it targets, but it's really cool. And then also if you flip summon, then it pops a card. Then you have Green Ninja, which is if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target a monster on the field and book it. It's like just the book effects are just so funny, and they will
Hmm.
oftentimes it doesn't beat the opponent, but it slows them down and long enough for the ninja to just beat over them.
Book effects can be extremely devastating, which is why I can sometimes be iffy on them
Hmm.
to like when they're to an extreme. Like specifically with Silvera from White Forest.
Yeah.
That in my opinion is too much. Because the White Forest deck can already do so much on its own,
Hmm.
and then anytime during your turn they can just book your entire board.
Yeah, so Book of Eclipse is extreme. Booking like one or two cards though, like that can potentially like end the turn depending on what your deck is. But I don't think anyone would call that unfair. Whereas booking four cards is like crazy.
Mhm. Well, the Book of Eclipse itself is actually a fairly balanced card because it books both sides of the board.
Yes, so Book of Eclipse, yeah, since it books both sides of the board, can be very fair. Although it's the reason that I lost the other day. That's very frustrating.
Mhm.
Let's see. Um,
But that's kind of where I'm with you. I prefer if there's more risk with cards rather than just, oh hey, I benefit off everything.
Okay, let's see. So let's add that. So cards that should be promoted are cards that have a risk to be played. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I mean, the one that obviously stands out is reasoning, but I don't think anyone wants reasoning to be played more. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Um, okay. Yeah. So basically, in order to fix Master Duel, cards that so how do we so I mean it's good to have like an idea of what we want to happen, but how do we do it? You would need to essentially you would need to try and push out a lot of the cards that cause problems. So there would probably need to be some sort of large ban list where you just took cards that are too powerful or that are pressing other options, like you said with Kashtira Unicorn and Kashtira Fenrir, and remove them, and then just allow people to discover older cards that have niche interactions, and then see where things go from there.
Mhm.
I
So,
can agree with that.
so with that in mind, uh, what are we banning?
Well, the top three off the top of my head: Appaloosa, Baron, Maxi. I feel like those are the obvious ones, at least to me.
Yep. Let's see.
I'm gonna agree with your initial take in the original video with Drew and Lockbird, and just say, yeah, let's get that out again.
Mm, I don't know
My issue
how I
is that
feel about banning.
it promotes non-interactability. That's my issue with it.
Yeah, but the thing is, Droll is like it's a necessary evil in a way.
But here's the problem with that, right? If you accept that Droll is a necessary evil to hold back powerful decks, that's part of what power creep is. Power creep is if the bandages that keep powerful decks are so powerful that they lock out weaker decks, then that warps the meta. So not only does Droll,
Yeah.
so if you say that Droll has to stay because it keeps decks in line, and Droll continues to be a part of the ecosystem, what that does, in addition to keeping these powerful decks in line, it shuts out all the decks that can't play through Droll. So as time goes on, more and more of the meta represents the cards that you're trying to, the decks that you're trying to stop with Droll, because the decks that you're not trying to stop with Droll can't play through Droll.
That's my issue with Droll. It really just eventually leads to an unfun game state where it's just like, oh hey, I lock you out the game basically.
Yeah. So if
that's
you argue
not
that
what we want to do.
If you argue that Droll is a necessary evil to hold back certain decks because they are unstoppable without Droll, the solution is just to ban those decks.
Well, yeah, that's what I was trying to get towards. Like, I don't think banning Droll in the current format is the solution. I think you need to deal with these decks first, and then
I can agree with that.
They're dealt with, you can get rid of Droll.
Okay.
I can definitely agree with that.
Let's see. Got it. Okay. And then the other one that I really hate is Dimension Shifter. Like,
Yes.
Dimension Shifter. So Dimension Shifter and Psyframe Gear Gamma are cards where it's just like the card is limited to 1, basically because the effect is so disruptive and annoying that no one wants to see it in any game, but they just refuse to ban it, which is weird. Like that's not why you limit 1 card. So you limit 1 card so that you have to search them, or you can't play multiple copies of them from the extra deck. Like a main deck hand trap being limited to 1 makes absolutely no sense. That's just an indication that you don't want it to see play at all, so just ban it. Same thing with Floodgates.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that.
Yeah. So Dimension Shifter, literally just like for the decks that don't care about it, like Flu, it doesn't hurt you, and for the decks that do care about it, it's like a game-ending card. And Dark Law and other like Arise Heart also exist, but those cards have an effect while they are on the field. So the obvious interaction is to just destroy the card. Easier said than done, of course, but that's what the game is. Whereas Dimension Shifter, if you can't called by it, it's over. So
it's your.
So yeah, especially the whole thing where Dimension Shifter can't be used while you have cards in the graveyard. Like it's literally just like a lottery of, did I open this card exactly on turn 1 when I was going second?
Mm-hmm.
Which is just like.
Or did I open it turn 1 going first, and I activate it then full combo, and my opponent's now under a Macrocosmos and has to break my board?
Well, I mean, a lot of decks wouldn't be able to play full combo under Dimension Shifter, but yes, you're right.
Well, I'm both thinking of decks like Kashtira, Flaunderies, Malice, which isn't in Master Duel yet, but
yeah. So there's only a couple of decks that can actually do that. For the most part, Dimension Shifter sees play in like as a way to try and floodgate the player who's going first, to hopefully prevent them from building a board to begin with. Which is it's an interesting idea, but there are better ways to do it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's an example of like what we're aiming for. Okay. Cool. Well, this was a good start. I'm going to get feedback from Harmac and Chrome as well, and upload that as well, and just kind of like consolidate and make this kind of a clear discussion. Do you guys have anything else that you want to add?
I don't know at the moment. I'm happy to continue this another time.
Great. Okay. So then I'll talk with Harmac and Chrome, and then we'll get back together afterwards and kind of figure out, where everyone stands. So thank you very much for coming out, and I hope you guys have a great night.
Yep.
You have a great day too.